the intersections of environment, education specifically, and she's a practitioner. So a lot of uh, what do I say? A lot of what we want to know today, how we can implement some of the strategies, some of the methods that we can, sort of implement at school. And I'm sure she'll be very, very resourceful in that domain. And then we have Ms. Pragya Yadav with us. She is a student within the domain. So my hope with today's webinar is to get a dual perspective, as from somebody who is already a practitioner within the domain and by somebody who's in that journey. So that is what the aim of today's webinar is. And without wasting any more time from my end, I shall start the didactic if everybody's okay with it. Yeah. Okay, just a second. Okay. Once again, good evening to everybody who's with us today. And as mentioned previously, today's webinar, the 126th episode of Friday at 5, is the topic that we have for today is learning and caring for environment in schools. And the reading source, as always, is the NCF. We are doing a series on the NCF, so we continue doing that. So the first thing that I want to bring everybody's attention to in this particular domain is the fact that there has been a lot of impetus, a lot of stress on, understanding what environmental education is within the latest curriculum framework. This is not to say that the previous frameworks, the previous policies have not concentrated on the topic, but the fact that this is a repetitive and a more frequent vocabulary that we see. So for those of us who remember in our session with social sciences or mathematics even, right? We would see multiple examples of making learning contextual. We had an entire session on that as well, as to how we can make learning contextual for students. And one of the biggest inputs that the document suggests time and again is the fact that we need to make use of our environment, our context. So then when we think about environmental education, we would like to delve into how do we do that in the classroom, right? Are we looking at environmental education as a very narrow approach of EVS, right? Where even the approach of EVS has been considered very narrow over time. That, we are teaching the subject in isolation, but when in fact, every curricular area that we have is somehow related. Not somehow, I mean, it is absolutely related to what is around us. So how can we make use, because we keep talking about context, we keep talking about making use of the students' local resources. So we will try to acknowledge the fact that, it is time to take that up, and also attempt to understand how we can do that as practitioners. So the first suggestive, what do I say, like some of the themes that the NCF suggests in terms of what are the approaches through which we need to look at environmental education. The first one that they focus during the foundational stages is that when a child is starting school, when a student is beginning to go to school, he or she should be uh, trained in a way that she has a positive regard towards what is around us. So the focus is not on the curricular areas in the foundational stage, but on competencies of the child according to one's age. As we move forward in the educational journey, that is when we reach the preparatory stage, what the document suggests is that, of course, the positive regard remains, but we slowly move towards the idea of sensitivity, right? So, sure, we do talk about what we like, we do talk about what we enjoy, but we also start to explore some of the concerns that surround us, that we may, sort of turn a blind eye to. Then again, when we reach the middle stages, the document suggests that environmental education should be seen in a way where we look at more conceptual uh, factors such as distribution, conservation, the interdependence of different phenomena around us, right? So as you can see, it's a build up throughout the classes or the stages, as one, people from the education domain call it. And it is an upward progression, right? Like moving from one's competencies to sensitivity, where we are churning the competency, moving on to more, more conceptual terms. And lastly, when we reach the secondary stage, that is the final stage of school, uh, environmental education it is suggested that it is a full-fledged subject, right? That we move away from the understanding that okay, let's just relate things to different curricular areas, but the need to study environment education as a full-fledged, not a co-curricular but a curricular subject comes in the secondary stages. So CG here is having its own curricular goals. So trying not to mix environmental education goals with other subjects, sort of diluting it, but having specific curricular goals for the subject, which also means devising specific competencies for a student, which in turn means that you also need to have specialized teachers for it, right? So how does one we always talk about subject hierarchies, and these are multiple ways in which these hierarchies come into existence. Moving on, regarding the positive regard for environment, how do we go on to that? So we have, 3 points up here. That is, the goals and competencies focus on the domains of development, right? So as I had mentioned, it is not on based on curricular areas, but not just jumping right onto defining things, differentiating between things. No, but we're trying to understand what the child's context is. Second, some of the methods through which one hopes to achieve this is through spending some time with the environment or what is around us, observation, interaction, you know and what is so great, I mean, what I personally found so great and sort of interesting in this is that there is, so when we talk about the foundational stage, it's 4 to 5 whole years, and that time has just been given for activities like observation, interaction, and spending time, which is something that we often try to rush. So that slow progression, that the scope for complete knowledge or the scope for clarifying concepts is given right in the beginning. Some other examples as to how the document suggests that we will do this is through stories, poems, songs, manipulated material resources. Again, staying away from text in the foundational stage. Moving on to sensitivity towards the environment, uh, what the document suggests. So, again, for those of us who were with us when we were discussing the chapters of all the subjects in the document, you might remember on this phrase, world around us, right? So as the child starts formal education, with more formalized systems in school, we move away from the concept of environment where we're only thinking of plants or we're only thinking of trees. It's also a very common notion one has, right? But what we consider environment is everything that is there around us. So that change in sensibility needs to be given. Moving on to starting with the immediate environment of students, which has more to do with the context. And then the learning standards should relate to observing, understanding, and engaging with nature. So if you sort of draw a parallel, it is again a continuity from the foundational stage. So what the document again and again sort of tells you is that this cannot be done in isolation. There needs to be a continuity there. It has to be progressive in nature, and the teachers and the school ecosystem needs to work towards that because it is a colossal change. Lastly, and something that I feel is more concernable to everybody, our participants here, is that the pedagogical process is the primary focus by the time one reaches the preparatory stage. So the approach one takes is learning by doing. Moving on to integration with concepts, that is the third stage, where we focus on sort of integrating environmental knowledge education with other curricular areas so that connections are made and context is given, which subsequently does focus on the interdependence between different concepts, different subjects, different disciplines, and so on and so forth. And lastly, when we reach the final stage of schooling, that is a secondary school, the focal length is fully, particularly and explicitly on environmental education, where we need to start developing a separate curricular area with specific aims, with specific objectives, and high time to move away with very vague objectives that one has mostly had in the domain of environmental education within the school systems. That is, responsible citizen, ethics, morality. Sure, these are very, very important things, but can we devise particular objectives, particular competencies for environmental education as one does for other subjects such as maybe social sciences or mathematics or science and so on and so forth, and also bringing the focus on key concerns within the environmental domain. Lastly, and something that all of us need to work on eventually as the policy fructifies itself with every passing month, is that that needs to be brought about this socio-ecological perspective within schools. So by that one means having conceptual frameworks and methods both from natural sciences as well as social sciences. So with this, I end the didactic on this topic, and then I shall shortly move over to our panelists who will be able to maybe help us contextualize this topic better and also provide us with some methods that we as practitioners, administrators, principals, leaders can use to improve the stance of environmental education within our own schools. Yeah. Hi. So I hope that the didactic was visible to everybody, and everybody is sort of on the same page when as to what we wish to talk about and some of the issues that we want to bring to light. So for those of you who have joined us, while the didactic was being presented, we have two panelists with us whose expertise is in this domain. So, as mentioned last time, ma'am, madam, if I can start with you, could you just tell our audience a bit about why this need? In the sense that environmental education has always been a curricular need, right? I remember in primary school, I used to have a subject called EVS. But what has the trajectory been? And this continuous focus on needing environmental education as a different curricular area, why should we really stress on that as per your opinion?
Thanks, Lavina. I just wanted to clarify firstly, I know it's difficult to pronounce my name, but you can call me Katie. My background, I'm not Dr. Rustam also. I have no PhDs, thankfully. With due respect to all the PhDs. But I've been an environmental activist.
Right.
And as I was doing my activism, I was also a school teacher by profession.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So my perspective is, like you may call it, from ground up what is needed. What is not
Correct.
the other way around, that what is needed from an academic perspective.
Sure, of course.
So I'll tell you 2-3 basic points. See, environmental education, a better way you can say ecological education, because it's also about the humankind within the environment. It's not the environment and we different, but we being part
Right.
of it.
Right.
So the big thing is that there are frankly there are no answers through any academic source for environmental.
Right.
I'm so happy, Lavina. Are you stuck in a traffic jam?
No, I'm
You
yeah.
are okay. You are parked, but you said because of some traffic related issues. Sorry if I'm okay. I took the example to an extreme. But
Yeah.
I'll just tell you the whole situation today is that because no one has answers to these critical issues, it cannot be as in a normal subject kind of framework. Okay, so
Right.
that's one point. I'll elaborate later because it's
Yeah.
little different what I'm saying. I
Sure.
mean, it's little, what do you kind of say? It's very extremely revolutionary what I'm saying. Second thing is that the whole our very survival is at stake.
Yeah.
In the present circumstances, our survival is at stake, and the whole situation is it's not reversible. We've reached tipping point, so we don't have luxury of time. So if our survival is at stake, that means it is not no longer even a subject. It
Yeah.
is a primary kind of whole systemic change you have to bring, where it is totally the very like main sub. It's everything is peripheral, and this is what has to be really taught in the schools. All these skills have to be like quickly the students have to be equipped with these skills. So I hope you get like
Correct.
the basic picture, and then I will
Right.
elaborate what exactly I mean by this. So first, it's
Right.
no longer should be treated like a subject, and we are doing it great service by bringing it from the margin to the center. But
Right.
it is everything because it's our basic survival depends on it. So this is like should be,
Absolutely.
and all
Absolutely.
other subjects can rotate around that.
Right. Right.
Frankly, we should not. It's pretty revolutionary because, unfortunately, there is no one today in the world who can give answers which are needed. So, how do we? For example, you yourself said that it used to be taught as EVS, that means environmental science. Everyone soon learned that it is not science that is going to solve our problems.
Right.
So that's why they experimented. We are constantly experimenting in this subject, and unless we realize it is no longer a subject but has to be taken on a war footing in a different, totally different kind of level and a totally different kind of impetus given, then alone we can take it forward and we can move forward. So I'll explain that later if you need
Sure.
other
Sure.
panelists to come
Yeah.
and
Mm,
even speak up.
of course. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think it really sort of set the pace in this, and I think all of us are on the same page here. And that's the, I mean, for lack of a better word, the funny part that we know these things, but what are we doing about it? And just to sort of put in one sort of comment or something that was going through my head while you were speaking is that uh, the thing about schools is that, especially with the RTE, right? It is a space where, you know, I mean, people send their kids. You receive that education. It's mandatory. It's the law now, right? So, can we utilize the schools or the numerical aggregate that the school enjoys to actually enhance or, you know, harness, for another word I can think of, this environmental stewardship or the kind of sensibilities that one needs? Pragya, would you want to come in here? Yeah.
Yeah. So, as ma'am already mentioned, that it is our basic survival. Our basic survival depends on it. So, uh, when they start going to schools and they start learning concepts about science, mathematics, and other things, that is the age when we can develop a sense of belongingness towards the nature, environment, and we can. That is the age when we can make them more aware about these concepts, because things are changing, becoming worse day by day. Like there's
Correct.
climate change, global warming, and sea level rise, glaciers melting. There are a
Right.
lot of issues.
So I have one question here, Pragya, and I'm sorry that I'm interrupting you, but I really want, because you all, because you've studied this as well, so I want to understand. I think all of us know that, ठीक है, so many things happening around the world. Even if one doesn't read news anymore, with the device that we all have in our hand, we keep this unlimited information coming to us, right? Now the thing is, in schools, right? What are some methods through which, you know, that we can actually I think it's too far-fetched to say bring a solution, because I mean it takes time. But what kind of methods? Because yesterday when you and I were speaking on the phone, you did mention this. You have some strategies or some methods in mind that the attendees or the teachers who are listening right now, who may stream this video later, what can they do to harness this sensibility? Yeah.
So, what basically we can do is, first of all, we have to create a sense of belongingness in them. We have to
Hmm.
make them sensitized towards the environment, because if they don't know why do they need to conserve nature, they are not going to bother themselves to just get out of their homes and do something. So, first of all, we have to make a we have to give them an environment where we can develop a sense of belongingness. For that, we can organize some nature walks with
Hmm.
students, so that teacher
Hmm.
and students can go on nature walks there, where they can observe things, like the nature being around them. We all have studied the chapter of the world around us, but have we already, do we have really observed the things around us? Like what I used to do, I was just working up with a group of students. So what I used to do is, I ask them to just go into the park and just try to find out and list 10 renewable things or non-renewable things, or
Hmm.
man-made things or artificial things or natural things. So from there we can develop a sense of belongingness in them. Also, we can take them for some plantation drives. We can collab with some NGOs that are working in our area, within the school area. We can take them for plantation drives, so that, and ask them to take care of that particular plant that you have planted. So they will take care of it, and they
Hmm.
will seriously, they will definitely be amazed after few years. We can tell them, "Ki you have to plant this, and then you have, whenever you will come after becoming father or grandfather, then you can
Yeah.
tell your future generation ki, yeah, I planted this tree when I
Huh.
was in this grade or that grade." So yeah, we can do this. Also, we can show them some documentaries. Like there
Hmm.
are so many documentaries over environmental pollution or deforestation, or so many things like orangutan or river Ganga, holy and holy river. So we can weekly or monthly we can organize some sessions, seminars, where we can discuss about these issues. We can show them documentaries and then discuss these issues. Okay, like what is happening around the world and what we can do. Staying in
Right. Right.
class, like a student of fourth class can never do go for ozone layer protection and
I that was going to be my next question, because we have also done it, right? Like they would, I mean, I wouldn't want to call it, I mean, of course not absurd, but like as a kid, because I do remember my childhood fairly well. Huh? And I remember some things, see, things are happening, it's the world around us, but a lot of times one may not pay enough attention or bother much, because I'm like, मेरे को तो नहीं फर्क पड़ रहा इतना. But that's also me being naive. Of course, फर्क पड़ रहा है. But because it's not immediate, right? Because it's not right in front of my face, quite literally. So I feel so. Yes. So yeah, please continue. I just wanted to, because I related to that so much, that yeah, because हम ओजोन की बात करते हैं, बिल्कुल हर जगह बात कर रहे हैं. But then the question becomes that what are some of the methods through which teachers can actually make it contextual for students, right? Because again, I personally, being a teacher myself, I refuse to believe the fact that we don't want our the students to know more, to learn more. No, but a lot of times we just don't know how, right? I mean, I might not be teaching environmental education, or not, I might not be teaching natural sciences. I'm a social science person, but that does not mean that I don't want my students to be sensitive, or have some sort of environmental acumen that, I mean, at least which I couldn't develop during my time, but I don't know how to. So how do we do that? Yes, and you did give us very, very good examples, Pragya. Thank you. Just I'll also just go to ma'am once, and then ma'am, anything that you want to sort of add in terms of some methods, some strategies that, you know, one of my favorite questions to ask on this show, because it's always a Friday, is that, what do you think the teachers can do on the Monday, or Monday or Tuesday, whenever they have a class? Yeah.
So, yeah. Shall I start?
Yes,
Lavina?
yes,
Yeah,
yes, of
sorry.
course. Yeah,
Thanks, Pragya. What Pragya
yeah,
was talking, I'll just sum it up what Pragya was saying, which I also heavily believe in it. It's just that sometimes, especially our side where we are located, there are 70 to 80 school children. Mostly in
correct.
normal formal schools. So I think Pragya, you really hit the nail on the head, and you have given some fantastic suggestions. But like Lavina said, we have to now. So you come in the broad framework with which we also at CRE believe that actually the world is out there, and we have to go and experience it. And and a lot of studies have proven that kids were born to be close to nature. In fact, we are closing
Yes,
them in cement rooms, and they are very. And then they say we cannot save what we don't first bond with or love. So you are on that whole. It's fantastic that you have talked about the creating the bonds and the love with nature. But Lavina, since I'm so Pragya is, I would call her the born optimist. Now taking a very pessimist stance,
no, no, yeah,
I would say rather that one starts again. I'm saying since we are in a race to save the planet,
mm,
one would go. Y'all say if you meet. We call one of our techniques is called which has really worked. It's called there's lots of articles on it. It's called the problem solving approach to environmental education. I'll repeat again, the problem
yeah,
solving approach to environmental education, because all other kind of routes, if you really read lots about it, all other routes have kind of failed. This is one arena which is a surefire system that works. I'll explain how.
yes,
You all had floods in Delhi some time back, right?
yeah, yeah,
The
yes,
Yamuna, correct? And
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
the
it's
first
correct.
time.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
if environmental education just had this one agenda that the school has to seize itself or engage itself with one problem, either in the immediate vicinity or the city. So that means at least 5, 6 schools in Delhi would immerse themselves with simple, why is Delhi flooding? Why is the Yamuna flooding? Now, what this will lead to, I'll tell you. This will lead to the fact that it is the first of all, the problem stems from there are multiple issues leading to the problem. So it is like, it is not only from a social perspective, it's from a scientific perspective, it emanates right from the hills. So when this whole kind of scene appears, that is where the children realizes, my goodness, these are a million dots that have to be connected.
correct.
So it can never be taken as a subject. So there's science and there is social stand, and then you have to understand the language of what the news reporters are saying, because it is not something. And then they will realize, my God, it's complex. It's not what this news channel is saying, or it's not what this person is saying. It's something also what I have experienced. So it's so many multiple things happening. The moment the children are exposed and engaged with this dialogue, that is the turning point. And it's
Yeah,
not very difficult to do in a classroom situation. Correct? Because we have
yeah,
so many, we have multimedia today. The children are engaged, and it brings to them, finally, when the whole thing is debated, they realize it is terrifically complex. And therefore, the solution is equally complex. But they are not turning a blind eye to it. They are facing it. Till today, the whole issue is, as soon as the floods go, again everybody turns a blind eye.
yeah, for sure.
It's the same situation in our hills. Our entire Himalayas are crumbling. There is
Yeah,
no one discussing this, which shocks me. which shocks me. I mean, how many people are there in Delhi? Why could not even 5 schools take up this leadership role? And you do not need any subject. You do not need, they just need basic skill sets of being able to listen, even if those who can't read well. Reading, of course, it ups the skill sets of reading. It ups skill sets of doing interviews. They are the teacher just throws 5 things they have to do after the exercises. Break into groups. I want a PowerPoint. I want a newspaper article. You are reporters. Go report, find out. I'm not meaning they go physically. They find
Yeah.
out, they use the parent body, they use, different ways. They use the parent body because somebody in the parent body is
Might.
hopefully
Yeah.
in some, I mean, they learn even how to be resourceful.
Right.
Now look at this magic wand where you take a direct problem and you try to get to the whole issue, the core of the issue. Meanwhile, they are learning a million skill sets. They are learning how to
Yeah.
manage data. They are learning how to read. They are learning how to interact. They are learning how to cooperate amongst the groups, learn from the groups, have a healthy debate, and do what other citizens are not doing.
Yeah.
So they are the citizens, you are skilling them to come, because it's only when we do such live kind of take on these live problems which you are facing today, you are set. And that is the turning point. Only then, otherwise, it will be in some clouds where we go on discussing, we do awareness, we engage, and we are just floating. And we are not really catching the bull by the horns. Look at these students. They are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. Can you understand the canvas they are seeing? They're no longer seeing the typical, if you go to a formal school, they're just, when you tell them to do art, they're just drawing those V-shaped mountains, the sun
Hmm.
coming up behind. See, this is what the normal subject is doing. I'm just doing an analogy. I'm
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I say that this is the key, very doable, very achievable. And the teacher is not here a teacher. Many teachers don't do environmental education because they fear the subject.
Hmm.
They say they have to move physically and join the students and say, I'm going to learn this with you because no one has the answers. We today together, collaborative is the word. Collaborative is a very important aspect of environmental education. We today collaboratively will find and look for the answers and keep our search on till we solve the problem of floods in Delhi.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so these are multiple things. Teacher can no longer, there is no teacher student, there is no
Hmm.
subject, nothing. You
Yeah.
just within your real life use all the other subjects and you forge ahead and you jolly well solve the problems that are facing your area, your community, your town, and your city. And like this, you can even start with such a problem, though it sounds very large. No, it is not large for students. And what helps them instead of the doom and gloom, which we should never give kids, they say we have a tool in our hands where we can solve the problem, however large it is, by facing it
Yeah.
and bringing to the fore partners, understanding it, and then turn the whole system around.
Right.
So it's no longer, yes, as you pointed out, Lavina, correctly, it's not, now I'm clearing the decks of all our typical understanding of education, school, textbook material,
Right.
nothing. We are just engaging ourselves with that situation. We are like, whatever you may call it, the new mantris, the new leaders, the new what, or the new problem solvers. We are using the other subjects just as for like you can say as tools. So it enhances those skill sets also.
Right.
And actually, that's how this whole, this whole kind of heavy aspect of environmental education will move ahead.
Right.
So
Right.
it's a very
Thank you.
revolutionary kind of, but till we really take this in its true sense, and it doesn't need much. We don't need many educational PhDs. Nothing. It's just like engage yourselves with the present situation, and it will in turn build the kind of understanding you need with the right kind of skill sets to tackle the environmental issues, and even then to be on a prevention mode.
Right.
Right now,
Right.
unfortunately, we are just on, we are just putting little, we are bleeding and then putting tapes all over.
Yeah. Till the time it overflows, the
Till
blood.
time, no, till that it's again, you get, bruised again. So it's very
Correct.
repetitive, yeah.
Right. Right. And Pragya, I am going to come to you with this question around teachers, right? As you know, because like, okay, so ma'am had said something very, very interesting that, putting this into slots, subjects, right? Even I personally, even though I don't know if I should be saying this in the term, because I'm a teacher, but with education, we tend to slot things, right? We slot them. I mean, timetable is the biggest example that one has, right? I mean, ideally, why do we have a timetable? It's too structured, and it's like, okay, 9 to 9:30 the kid should be engaged in math, and then 9:30 to 10:20 or whatever the mind has to switch. So it is a strange concept, but at the same time, I may feel what I feel, but these are things that happen in school, right? So again, environment when we talk about environmental education also, uh, so as you saw in the didactic, the NCF suggests that there has to be certain curricular goals. There has to be certain competencies that one should have. And even though I think all of us do feel and fully agree with the fact that these are not competencies that can just be bought. It has to be developed over time, as ma'am very, very beautifully expressed. One does not need to have, 10 degrees to understand these things. But the structure of the schools is always such that, these things are like, it's put into different slots. So according to you, as a student who's also pursuing, masters in this domain, what I would like to ask you, what are some of the curricular goals? Because the people who are with us, by 2024-25, these curricular goals has to come into flesh. It's in the process right now. And time and again, what the NCF suggests is also that none of these are prescriptive, right? Everything that the document is saying, it's all suggestive. So the schools have the autonomy, especially ideally all schools should have the autonomy to do these things, but especially schools that are comfortable, that are plush, that are well funded, they have these authority and autonomy to create curricular goals or competencies as per their context and understanding. So could you think of 2 3 goals that every school or every administration, however we see the institution philosophically, what are some of the curricular goals that one should keep in mind while devising, sadly, the word curriculum? Because the curriculum has to come. That's how schools work. I mean, at least formal schools work. So yeah.
So environment is saving the environment or working in nature is not something like we have to include that in curriculum. We can we can just sensitize them by one or two examples by modifying our lives. Like we can have a full slot of mathematics class and or some other class, and at last or in the beginning we can just tell them little two one or two things that can uh, that can make them sensitized, like what I myself feel ki once my teacher said ki you should not like, I don't have a wrapper around me, but you should not tear a wrapper or open a wrapper by leaving that small piece over here and there. You should always open it like in such a way that like दोनों parts अलग ना हो. ठीक है. So
Hmm.
that makes a big impact on my life myself. Like wherever I go, I used to give it this example, that you don't have to make these pieces separate, so because it becomes difficult for the recyclers or rag pickers to pick those small pieces. But those small pieces have a great impact on our lives, that they have certain chemicals, PCBs, and that will be a big complex discussion. But they have certain chemicals that erode our soil, and that are harmful for our lives. If we'll have some foods grown in that particular soil, so we can inculcate some such examples, like while teaching we can just, to make a good connection with them, we can sensitize them about these issues. Because no one is going to organize some strikes for climate change, or but we can, little by little, we can do so many things. We can ask them to we can make in schools. First of all, we have to instead of integrate, what I'm saying, we, I'm sorry, but what we can do is we can make some like goals for schools. Like we have to segregate all of the school waste in school, and we have to make a decentralized waste management system in school. Like all of the waste that is generated within the school, we will be treating, recycling, reusing that particular waste in different areas within the school campus, and not
Right.
throwing anything out of the school. So what they will learn from this, ki they don't have to throw anything here and there. Like while I was traveling yesterday, there was a mother and her child. What they were doing, they were opening a bottle of cold drink, then throwing the cap out of the train, then throwing the bottle out of the train, then the chips wrapper. They were throwing everything out of the train. But none of the even not the mother, I should not say this, but that was the reality, that neither the mother nor the child, none of them were bothering that they should not do this, because no one is going to pick that up. Instead, it is going to definitely affect our lives in some way, not directly but indirectly. So if we will develop a sense of that sense in children's by some examples, like setting that environment in school, so we can sensitize them, and in definitely they are going to discuss that at their homes with their friends, with their siblings, and definitely that will have a great impact.
Right. Ma'am was so right, it's like so optimistic and so nicely put, right? Like, and I also feel that even I've seen similar things in colleges, universities, where they have a segregated, kya hai wo, dustbin, like, uh, thing. But what really irks me, honestly, I apologies, I don't want to be, bring in some grim sort of conversation, but that people can see two different dustbins written big font, what is, waste, wet waste. Still, people while walking, they will not even look where they're putting stuff, and they'll just walk away. And very similar to, I mean, I don't know if you guys have see, it also depends a lot on the kind of environment one is in, right? Like if you're in an environment where everybody is like-minded, I think it's more effective. At least ek do baar I have tried to, just ask at least the people who I could ask. Why you didn't even look where you're putting, and I'm calling this out because you put it in the wrong section. I think it takes half a second to look. Anyway, see, either you're not dumping anything. If you're dumping something, you should do it right, at least. Right? Not like it's a big achievement. I think these are very, very small things that we should have been doing for a very long time. But okay, let's start small. So again, then again in my head, so this was in a school. In fact, the example that I'm giving you, I had visited a couple of years back. And then the first thing the thing that came out of the other person's mouth was that, क्या ऐसे ही लगा रखा है ये, इसका कुछ नहीं, right? So a lot of times I also feel that even if one is, because we always talk about resources, right? What resources can we bring in? It can be, I mean, for if we are assessing numerical aggregates as resources, can be human resource, can be material resource. But despite having these sorts of facilities and provisions, why aren't we, and why isn't the younger generation, thinking more about it? I mean, it's not a question to either of you. I'm just like thinking out loud. And this is not just in schools. You can, so G20 was something that happened very recently, right? And so I stay quite far away from where I work. So that's always a long drive, much like case in point. And then I would see that a couple of those days the roads were spick and span, and a lot of the traffic was also caused because people were sweeping and everything, plants. So, we are the primary idea here is that we like to be shown, we like to be clean, we like to be green, we want to project a certain this thing, right? And everybody does, I think. But when it's the person, when you have to do something, we like the projection ek jaga, and what we're doing is another ballgame. So I don't know. I mean, I'm also rambling a bit here because I'm also trying to place that, how, because I'm going to meet my kids on Monday, right? And generally, what I do is after the episode, I do, of course, take back something, and then I do discuss, and I do encourage them to also join once in a while, if and when they have time. So I am also thinking how, as a teacher, what can I do? Both of you did give very, very good examples as to how some of the things can be inculcated in the school domain, especially about, I think even Pragya would agree what Madam had talked about, can 5 schools in a district take up one issue, right? And imagine the kind of impact one may have. And of course, these things should not have a reward, but if at all reward is a thing, like, can the school encourage this by taking it up outside the school? Like, let's just say people do achieve something, whatever the margin of their achievement is. Can the school, like, how can the administration encourage this, right? Because a lot of times the answer is, let's bring in resources, let's bring in segregated dustbins, let's do that, let's do this. But utility is a big thing. If I'm not utilizing the things, if I'm not utilizing the resources that I have, then we are back to, I mean, it's just wasting more money or wasting resources, but the utility is not fulfilled, right? So we we have 10 odd minutes left. So there are 2 questions that I have in mind. The first one was, of course, to, how can we equip teachers and educators better to understand this? But I think it's a complex question, right? I had started this right in the beginning. I may not be an environmental educator. I may not have studied the natural sciences as the NCA suggests. But that does not mean that the space that natural scientists occupy in this world and the space that I occupy in this world are different. We are sharing space. We are sharing the same everything, right? So as teachers, what are some of the things that we can do? But of course, we have spoken about this, and some resources that our attendees can look into. So Madam did mention one resource, that was the article which I have also posted to everybody, the problem solving approach to environmental education. Are there any other material resources that one can think of? Yes.
First of all, environment says do away with resources. So please understand that. Yeah, sorry, I'm
Sure.
like,
Please.
please, I don't want to sound rude. I'm just challenging
Absolutely.
some of the concept.
Notions. Correct. Right.
Really sorry,
Right.
but okay.
No. Please don't be.
Here,
Yes.
I'm against charts do nothing, all these do nothing, of course, except when the children are preparing. So don't think along those lines, yeah. Because we have to, in fact, we always say at CRE, we move, it's very simple. One resource is rethink and reanalyze. So only your resources, use your minds, teachers. Now I'll tell you a very simple thing that you can do, which is extremely, it is so fantastic that it moves on its own, and every school can do it, every teacher can do it. All you need to do is, when you walk into your school, you decide, I'm going to be a green school or a sustainable school. Simple. That means as a teacher, I will start one issue at a time. So I take 5 things. I start with energy, since it's driving global warming and climate change. I will say I'll just start simple switch off campaign. Not I will get children to take 5 groups, start with the energy group. Okay, simple. What will happen as a result of that? There will be huge savings. Is it a lot of effort? No. Why will they do the children, the 8th, 9th, 10th will find out the teacher, please make your students work. Teachers learn to be lazy. Please learn to be lazy. Do this simple exercise. Who is doing this? Who will find out why did teacher X say we are going on an energy saving mission? Okay, because what we are doing, we just come and we automatically start switching on. Even if light is there, now the rains have gone, we just automatically switch on the lights and fans. She just says, can we start switching off? Can we start switching off when we leave the art room, the computer room, the hall? Why do we need millions of lights and fans in the hall? And she tells the children, why am I starting the mission? That is your work, very easy to do. There are a million resources now. All that the teacher does is spark light the matchstick, which gets them to go boom, and a competition 8, 9, 10. Give me the reason why the switch off campaign. And second is how much money did we save, how much energy and how much carbon. Very easily doable. Everything's on the net. We must move to this kind of education where they are learning. I am just starting something. This is the resource I'm using. And even for this, tap into, again, the net. We have technology, we have digital. I'm just telling you this shortcut, even if we don't want to accept. Monday, go start. I'm starting an energy saving campaign. Simple. I just end of the month, I will see the bills. Even if the school has saved 1,000 rupees, it is this much carbon emission stopped, and this much is my financial savings, which we will all debate on how it will be utilized, again for a greenage. Point number 2, the second aspect, like taking off from when Pragya left. The smartest thing is the school just watches its own waste. I'm coming to a point where I'm saying we walk the talk. The teachers just think, throw all the textbooks out. They are about using paper. They are about cutting trees or whatever. They are about using energy. I'm not talking any resource. We don't want resource. Point number 2, we find ways how we can reuse the waste. The school becomes a collection ground for e-waste. Correct? So it becomes, again, they show a financial benefit in carbon reduction, which is very important today. So e-waste aggregation happens. Today, e-waste problem is because aggregation doesn't happen. Schools, like you said, are the centers in a community. Use the school as an aggregator. A. B. There are in your art room. We have a book called Art and Craft, Out of the Box Art and Craft with Waste. Our organization has published. This is the core, sustainable. We have over 36 modules how we can use waste for art and craft. A simple thing like using flower petals on any Xerox, any parent who has a Xerox machine has so many papers they throw. Just learn, use. Then they find out which is better. The teacher throws a topic. Why is waste a resource and what is better, reusing or recycling? We are stuck in our heads. We have this notion, so what, maine plastic use kiya? So what if I toss the bottle? It's all recyclable. No, these are the topics the teacher, please teachers be lazy. These are the topics your kids will research. And the school becomes the living, walking the talk. Example is we are cutting our own carbon footprint and we are becoming sustainable. We are not talking 10 years afterwards I will become sustainable.
Right.
Okay. And so they do all the aspect. What is waste doing to living creatures? she gives 5 topics to the children. 8th standard, go find out what is waste doing to other living organisms on the planet and the other living beings. One more topic she throws to the students. How is waste connected to climate change? Enough material is there. So she throws 2 or 3 topics and the children have a debate. Look at the kind of situation where you're already in the solution mode. You're already walking the talk. You're not talking, oh, after I get educated, I will start thinking about the environment. No, I don't want books. I don't want knowledge. I am already doing what I have to do.
Doing.
So waste management starts right then. Of course, it manages its own waste. So it starts composting and it starts making biogas. Or it uses, there are a million things how the school can compost, and even there are schools selling compost. There are a million things the school can do, which is a fingertip away. There are enough resource people, they will come to your school who give you extremely solutions to manage all this. So waste is an, do you think these two are very easily manageable? And these two, yes, don't you think the teacher needs nothing? Yeah. So we are all
ma'am, honestly, I was also, while you were telling us some of the things, seems revolutionary, at least in my head, I mean, of course, the impact is great, but these are all very doable things.
Exactly, and super simple. And how the kids are going to enjoy this. Because you won't believe it. We ran these experiments and we were shocked. We took 3 types of schools. One was ICSE, one was, the board schools, and one was where the drivers and maids children came. We were shocked. We thought the rich would get the maximum waste for various purposes. It was the drivers and maids who got the maximum waste.
Yeah.
So, and of course, there are a million applications, all your bulletin boards, all your artwork, your project work. So what you're doing is you're watching your own steps and becoming eco-friendly. And in that mode, the whole school is moving into us. And these are the skills you need. You don't get these real life skills from a book.
Right. Thank you. I think that was so.
Yeah, so you continue that. I'm saying in every single mode, we have a lot of resources. We call this from action to knowledge. And we call this whole school approach. You will get this info. It's called whole school approach, or we term it, of course, action to knowledge. So don't talk, don't look for knowledge. Move into action mode, take the steps. So that's what CRE, we call this tagline. And third is whole school approach. You'll get it everywhere. This is the whole school approach, or you can, basic way to call it is walk the talk. So you're not talking about it, you walk the talk. So it's in all the areas, similar biodiversity. So it's in, So it's in this, it's in all the 5 thematic sustainability concepts. So you just walk the talk in school and you're done. And you don't need resources. And you should need resources, and you should not even lean on any resource. And throw those damn textbooks out. They don't do any good.
If you ever, I mean, I really hope that both of you did have a good time, even though this was a bit disruptive, because we never, I was just telling Akhil this, we never start late. Like we start like 5:59 second we start, and I was, of course, but otherwise, if you do go to our other links, and I hope that you do, if and when you have the time, you will see that every time the concluding remark more or less is mostly the textbook jo hai, usko thoda alag rakhiye. Because there's so much, and see, there's using textbook as a guide is great, but let's not be prescriptive to it, Yeah, like that is one of the biggest hurdles that we have had. And this is till date, it's 2023. Like it really contains you. So as teachers, then it requires the teachers to be researchers, the teachers to be action bearers. And that is what we are encouraging. Pragya, last word from you. We are 3 minutes beyond time, but it's on me because I did start late. So anything that you would want our teachers, our attendees to know, or to keep in mind as they move forward? Yes.
Like as of now, I guess I have mentioned all the points, but
Of course.
learning these are never, never enough. What we can do is we can, first of all, we can we can sensitize them with our own actions.
Hmm.
uh, they all are aware of the concepts of reduce, reuse, and recycle. But what
Hmm.
we can do is we can ask them to, you have to reduce on your waste, and you have to, you have to count on your waste. What are the things that you are wasting? Yeah, you have to analyze your whole day,
Correct. Correct.
and then you will be required to write down all the things that you have wasted, where you have cut off the waste, where you have done some good deeds like planting trees or something like that. That will be beneficial. Yes.
Right, right, right. Thank you so much, all of you. And we have Akriti with us, who generally sort of writes down whatever is discussed. I mean, all of us do, but since I do not have a notebook right now, I could not. And we will be very, very sure to also send a little text, which we do informally, to all the attendees who do sign up for these shows, and we send them a text in the sense that this is the some of the summarization of the episode. And I think this is one of the few episodes where we've had so many things that we can write, because a lot of times it's just filling words also sometimes. Acha, theek hai, ye bola tha, how do we expand? But I'm so grateful to both of you to for actually giving us doable actions, strategies that we as practitioners can take up in class, and we're moving away from the philosophical idea of, yes, we have to save the earth, the world. Of course we do, but the question is, how do we do that? That remains a fundamental question. So thank you once again so much, both of you, and thank you to everybody who joined. And I hope that this was a good session for all of you. I have learned a lot, and I hope all of you did. And I hope that starting next week, Diwali is on way. So let's also try to be more, I don't know, ethical, more careful about how we are celebrating, how, yeah. So, yes, thank you once again, and lovely seeing all of you, talking to all of you. There are some comments on the chat, so thank you for the comments. I will convey them to the panelists. And in the meanwhile, we should close this now. It is 6:05. So I hope both of you, I really hope that even if the topic is not environmental education coming in the coming Fridays, you are always welcome to join our session as a panelist, to learn, to share, and this is the 126th episode. So, and we hope to continue, uh, unlimited number of episodes as we move forward. So you're always welcome. You'll always get the link from us. And I really hope to see both of you very soon. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.